Ah,
Like, for real, no, I'm serious. Like, the dude was like floating on the floor. I was like, bruh, how? And so, I would try to like learn stuff online. I took a couple classes before, and I'm gonna, what I'm saying. I think you and I we discussed some stuff offline. But let me ask you this question, and this is more so for our listeners. And you know what? And then primarily those who maybe like of the for far as like the African diaspora. For the most part, in reference to like African Americans, we tend to have this stipulation on what's black and what's not black, and what we perceive to be black, and all this other stuff. But to educate them, now I know this, but just it's salsa is apparently a twofold thing. So you got the dance and then you got the music. But what is it? What is it, Erika? What is salsa?
okay. So let me just lead. I want to lead with this. What? Because vocabulary, right? Vocabulary, this language that we use, which is English, it's tricky, and we really just use it to articulate the thoughts that we're trying to have, what we're trying to express, right? But really, some of the stuff that we use and how we're trying to say it, it doesn't really give justice to what we're trying to express. So I want to start with that. This salsa word that we use, it's kind of like a saturated word, to be honest. But because what we're really trying to articulate is the music that was really birthed from slavery in Africa, and tradition and ritual, right? And so there was a lot of suffering in the way that these sounds were birthed. Wow. And so with that being said, when this was kind of like brought to the Western world, which is like New York now, right? So we're talking about something traveling from like Africa, getting beat and mushed around with like Spaniards, and then somehow making it its way into what we know today as New York, right? And so like all these immigrants that end up making it to New York, what do? They take the music. And so, kind of like how we hustle day to day, and then we go and put in some downtime on the computer, making some beats, and, maybe trying to work on some instruments or whatever. Like people that we know today as Celia Cruz and Ismael Rivera and, like Hector Lavoe, guys back then were trying to get their shit popping, So eventually, obviously, they made history with some of the stuff, but I just say that, through all that history that we know of great music, there's a lot that happened with this word salsa. Because salsa is an umbrella for guaguancó, son, or bongo, for these different, like, beats, I guess. So I guess the best way that I could try to articulate it, it's kind of like, think about if we were listening to, like, R&B, and then we were listening to trap music, and then we were listening to hip hop, and we were listening to rap. So I just named like 4 different type of genres, right? But if someone from a different country came, they would be like, "Oh, yeah, I'm listening to American."
Wow.
Oh, okay, cool, American music. What's that? Well, yeah, American music, right? And so think about it. Think about, like, for me, it's a little frustrating. Sometimes I'll go to a club. So it's funny to me, like, if you're a DJ, right? And I'm like, hey, DJ, play me some American music.
Right.
And you're like, yeah, cool. I'm going to play trap music. And in my head, I'm thinking I want more of a rap, but you're playing me trap. You're not playing what I really want you to play. So I feel like this is kind of the issue that's happening today with salsa and the DJs that play music. But now I'm talking specifically in nightclubs, like locally and stuff. Salsa has gotten like really saturated and kind of like, I don't know, I guess outdated. And so like people that from nowadays, what they know as salsa is just kind of like, oh, Mark Anthony, yeah, Okay. But they don't know like all this other stuff, like there's so much more. Not to back down Mark Anthony. He got a tour coming up. Matter of fact, if y'all like Mark Anthony, go check out his tours coming up.
Hey.
But just saying, like, there's more. There's way more. There's a lot of like jazz. There's a lot of Latin jazz that came about before quote unquote salsa even became a thing, and I think all of that contributes to a lot. And so I know I'm kind of ranting, and I went about
This
a
is
lot.
good. This is good. No, so correct me if I'm wrong. From what this is just based on, because I'm a whole nerd. I think you know that. From my study, for like just like researching and stuff like that concerning this particular like genre and style. I mean, you said it earlier. You mentioned some of the like the dances and like some of the different sounds. You mentioned. I hope I'm saying this right. It's what was you said guanguaco.
Guaguanco, guaguanco.
I always say it wrong. I swear, like that's why I don't even say it. Say it again for me.
Guaguanco.
Guaguanco. Okay. Guaguanco. You mentioned song. Well, we have rumba. We have all that, and you said it like it's a mix, and then you got like all the different dances and stuff like that.
Right.
And and then the other thing is jazz, and jazz is actually it's an American thing, African American thing in particular, and it was actually birthed out of Louisiana. So if anybody's been to Louisiana, like New Orleans and like further like towards the coast, they have a unique like culture and stuff in itself. It's really unique as far as like their music, even when it comes to like when they merge their music with like hip hop and stuff like that. Like it has a different sound. I forgot what the sound is called. It's called you know what I'm talking about. Like, you know how you hear it sounds really fast and upbeat when they're mixing like hip hop, like especially like the old school music. Like I'm thinking about I can't right now. As soon as I finish this podcast, the name is gonna pop up. Like I feel it. Like as soon as I'm done with this podcast, it's gonna pop up. But it's a certain sound that's down in New Orleans that is like other people try to emulate, and it's almost like similar to like what you were saying with like R&B, hip hop. Then we got trap, and then it's a mixture of all that stuff. So yeah, y'all. So it's the same thing. So let's see what I was gonna ask. What was I gonna ask? So when you were mentioning, like when you were saying the now we're talking about music. We're not even talking about dance yet. But you're talking about music, which is good. So you're saying it's saturated, and we tend to hear like a particular person, or this person is almost, or person or persons within like the 2000s, the late 90s or whatever. They're kind of like a spokesperson. You know what I'm saying? Not that they're intentionally trying to be. They're just making music because they love it. But they're a spokesperson. So you mentioned some old heads prior to like Mark Anthony. And technically speaking, Mark Anthony is like an old head because he's been around since like the 90s. And, you know, he met Hector Lavoe and stuff like that. But you mentioned Celia Cruz. You mentioned Ismael Rivera. Who else would be like old heads as far as like this whole idea of what salsa is?
Ray Barretto.
Yeah. I'm
like
sorry, I got excited.
The Fania All-Stars,
Facts.
like all of those guys. Tito Puente.
Yep.
Who else? You put me on the spot, so now my head, of course.
No, you good.
Like,
I got you. I think it's some people. Well, I said Ismael Rivera, but Ismael Miranda, Ruben Blades.
yeah.
That's my guy, yo. Frankie Ruiz, that's my dude. Huh?
Ruben Blades. Oof.
Did you say like in a bad way or in a good way?
No, like oof, like yes, like I love it. I love it.
His writing is like, bro, what? So my favorite song from him is Plástico. And because from a social perspective, we still deal with that same thing. Right? In 2019.
Oh, that's a whole nother podcast.
So you got him. Man, I should have pulled it up on my phone. But there's so many people we haven't even